welcome again. In today's text, Jesus once again encourages the disciples to be awake, to be attentive, to be alert. And he says, if a master goes off to a wedding feast and leaves his servants in charge of the house, then when he comes back at whatever hour, be it the second watch, the third watch, and he finds the servants awake and ready for action, he will sit them down and look after them. And he says at the end, happy those servants whom the master finds awake and ready for action when he returns, whether at the second watch or the third watch. And I was thinking once again that Jesus is very repetitive in this message for his disciples. And I gather it's also for us. In those days, it was because of an unfamiliarity, with the message, with the good news, with the kingdom and so on. But today, it's because of all the rush and bustle and a bombardment with words and propaganda that again I think we need to be called to be awake, to be ready for action, and we will be happy. And I want to share a very familiar little example from my own experience. I live in a house that's more or less on the top of a hill, and if sometimes I want to go for a quick walk, just a short one, I'll go out around the block and come back and have puff. But sometimes I'll do it completely absorbed in whatever I might be concerned about and just sort of see the pavement and walk around and come back. Yes, and what I'll get out of it is a little bit of oxygenation. But then alternatively, I can go down and be far more attentive, far more awake. And at one time of the year, just down below the house, there's a jacaranda tree. And it spreads out over the footpath and the sidewalk. And it's one time of the year, of course, it provides you with a purple-blue umbrella, which is beautiful. And the sun shines through. And then a little bit later, it provides you with a carpet of blue-purple for us heathens to walk on. And then just across that, on the next corner, in the front of the house, there's a large magnolia. And I mean a large one. And when it's fully in bloom, it is just so beautiful. It's breathtaking. And then if I continue on that road a little, I come across two cherry blossoms, almost side by side. And they just dance in pink when they're in full blossom. And then a little further on again, just before the corner, there's a flowering peach, which is, I think it's a fairly young one because the branches are all pointing up. And when it's in flower, every bit of branch is just a blaze of beautiful white. And so when I come back from that walk, yes, I got the bit of puff, which is expected, but also I'm filled with the charged images of God. Because I say if God can create such beauty in his works, how beautiful he must be. And so I could go and be charged, or I could come back and just puff. But it's a case of being awake, of being attentive, of being ready for action. And that's what Jesus recommends again. And that's what I want to take today and offer to you to reflect on a little. Whether it's an exchange with someone, it might be something that person says that pulls you up, that catches your attention, that questions you or encourages you. Stay with that saying, that phrase, for just 15 seconds to let it in, to let it nourish you, and let God reveal himself in what that person might have said. Or it could be a gesture. And I think I've shared before a beautiful gesture I had given to me when I was coming back on the train from the city. And I came to my station, I got up, got off the train and reached for my ticket and couldn't feel it. It wasn't there. So I jumped back on the train, if you can imagine me jumping, and went to my seat and looked around and no ticket, no, nothing there. And a young student in his uniform who was sitting just opposite me said, "Are you okay, sir?" And I said, "Well, not really. I've misplaced my ticket." And without much hesitation, reached into his pocket and pulled out his ticket and he said, "Here, take mine." That gesture has stayed with me for the rest of my life. And the gesture was of far more value than the ticket itself. And so when you're reading the paper, for example, where there's a decent article or something there, and a phrase catches your attention, stay with it. Just let it nourish you. God might be speaking in some way, like he did with that young man. God was saying to me, "You're not alone in a crisis or in difficulty. I am with you." And that gesture was very clear. Or if you hear a bit of music, and maybe the rhythm or maybe the lyrics catch your attention. I heard one the other day, I think it was for the first time that I'd noticed it anyhow. And it was "Three Little Birds" by Bob Marley. I recommend it. Everything will be all right. Quoting the old mystic Julian of Norwich. All things will be well and all manner of things will be well. And Bob Marley was on the same theme, which is very encouraging in times of difficulty. When we look at the Middle East or Ukraine or Sudan or the Congo or Myanmar. Yeah. So let's be awake and let God speak to us in and when and how he wants, if he wants. There was a book I remember years ago called The God of Surprises. And our God is a God of surprises. So I invite you to let him surprise you, if he chooses. And therefore, we'll be awake. We'll be listening. We'll be attentive. And we'll be hearing and seeing. So have a great week. And by the grace of God, we'll see you again next week. Take care.